Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Student of the Game. I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. And listen, if you're here, chances are you like talking sport. We're glad you're going to do it with us here tonight. And listen, everybody's up out their chair. Some of you weirdos are going to sit and watch ESPN for 2 hours, or you can watch this show briefly and actually have some fun doing it and listen to somebody that might know a little bit about what they're talking about here. But NFL schedule thoroughly released. I could tell you as of this moment, I have put my games for the Jacksonville Jaguars into the calendar that I'm going to be hoping to cover here for Jaguar Report and the Duval Dive. Bing! So there's all of that. Very interesting stuff here. And listen, the only target for this, I'm not going to break down every game. I'm not going to give you win-loss records. None of this is a preview. I'm not doing anything like that for any team. But what I will do is go through each week and tell you the games that I find most interesting. And let's start, obviously, with what's already been released to some element in week one. Ravens Chiefs is a great kickoff, is a great opener. I know that there have been years past where you could do a Super Bowl matchup, and that would be a great thing to do open this season. But Ravens Chiefs, Lamar Demetrius Jackson, and Travis Michael Kelsey, along with Patrick LaVon Mahomes II. You can't go wrong there. Also, I have highlighted here the first Monday night game of the year as well, though, for the Jets heading to the San Francisco 49ers, battling there in Santa Clara for that game. And that game's worth watching just to see if Aaron Rodgers can make it through. Anyways, week two, listen, the next Thursday night game there, too, is another strong one with Bills Fins. I'm going to typically try to avoid divisional matchups, but there'll be some weeks where it's got to be worth mention. But also week two, right out of the gate, the Rusty Bowl, the Steelers doing battle against the Broncos. That's right. Russell Carrington Wilson, if he maintains as the starter for the Steelers, will then do battle with his current team, or former team, I should say, most recent former team in the Steelers. Mickey, thank you for stepping in. You have enough conscience and sense to not sit through a 2-hour ESPN show just talking about the schedule. How absolutely ridiculous is that? But enough ripping on four-letter networks for now. Week three, the two games I have written down. The main one, of course, I think Ravens-Cowboys. I think this one's a big draw. I think this is a game that will be kind of a litmus test for the Cowboys in particular. The Ravens by then would have already faced the Chiefs and had a chance to really get going here. I think that game will be important for the NFC, even though I'm featuring an AFC team there. And then also Bears-Colts, I had to acknowledge for some reason I'm very interested in the matchup of Caleb Williams versus Anthony Richardson. AR, of course, last year for the Colts, having a good time, but not necessarily starting all of the games. He didn't play as much as a lot of people would like, and he'll have another offseason to kind of adjust his style of play. Let's see. Very interested to see how both quarterbacks look in that particular game. Let's see. Heading to week four, rather. Sunday night's going to be a nice one. Bills-Ravens. That just has the look of good football. I have also mentioned here Jags-Texans. Again, I'm trying to avoid divisional matchups for some reason. I think I put that game there. Again, whoever wins that game and how those two teams perform is basically how I'm going to judge the rest of both those teams' seasons, to be frankly. Meg, thanks for stepping in, man. I also see in the comments that you shared. I appreciate all the love you bring here, whether it's for me on the Student of the Game here on the Duval Dive, when you get to on an In or Out Sports Debate, and also supporting our good friend Drew Willingham, just all that group. So I'll give Mickey Delaney a bing just for all the bing that I had in there too as well. So thanks for stepping in, Mickey. And again, I'm here to save you from sitting through 2 hours of chatter from people who don't do it the way you probably want it done. And I'll be clear with that. Going to week 5. This one of those where you're picking a good Sunday to reorganize your sock drawers, though the game for mention of that week there, both teams wearing red, white, and blue. I have the Bills heading to Houston to battle the Texans. I think that's going to be a good football game. I think that'll be a premier game for both teams that week. I think that's one of those that could have seating implications at the end of the year. It might be the difference whether or not the Bills make the playoffs, whereas it'll be important for the Texans to have that one for seeding if they're the favorite in the AFC South right now. They are a team that I believe we'll be trying to fight for a good seeding come playoff time there if that's the case, right? So, see if they can get higher than the 4th seed in the AFC, and that game will impact that. Week 6, similarly, a big game for the NFC. Again, another sock drawer week, in my opinion. But the Lions go over to Jerry World to battle the Cowboys. That game will have playoff and seeding implications, I believe, potentially as well, depending on how both the Eagles and Cowboys come out this year. And for those who believe in Jalen Daniels, how big a factor that will be in the NFC East. Obviously, I have no faith in Danny Dimes. I don't think that's any surprise at this point, even bringing in neighbors from the draft there as well. Week 7. Super Bowl rematch that week. The Kansas City Chiefs with Lamar Demetrius Jackson will visit Brock Purdy and company, the San Francisco 49ers, of course. That will be the feature for that week. So that's pretty a standout week and what I think is an otherwise organize your sock tour kind of week. Week 8. Cowboys, Niners, another big NFC thing, though I did also highlight a divisional matchup there. Atlanta and Tampa Bay do battle. I believe that's the first pairing with those teams. And again, one of those games where you could kind of litmus test which team you think is going to actually be relevant by then. How Kirk Cousins and the Falcons perform in that game with Baker Mayfield, the newly paid, I should say, Baker Mayfield and the Bucks, I think will tell us a lot about both teams in that part of the year. Let's see, the Texans and the Jets. So this is one of those old versus new kind of games, right? CJ Stroud in his second year will be heading over to East Rutherford, assuming he's still healthy, to battle old man A-Rod. And again, it's another sock drawer kind of week, but it's one I found interesting. Again, the old guy versus the old movement versus the old, or the new movement versus the old school. It's the main thing that kind of jumped off the page there. And what can I say? That was my favorite piece there to really step on for that week. We'll leave it at that. And let's see. Next up, we have week 10. Now, we finally have what I would call the matchup that jumps off the page for me. Pats Bears otherwise wouldn't really matter, but Drake May versus Caleb Williams, the rookie battle of the NFL season, in my opinion, that'll take place there. I don't care how many quarterbacks were drafted. I think that'll be the one that, jumps off the page to me. It may seem right now today that the Bears would have a relatively easy victory, but I think it's both those quarterbacks being on display. It's the storyline for that week in week 10 that kind of does it. Let's see. Week 11, the Battle of Texas takes place. The Cowboys head over to Houston to battle CJ Stroud and the Texans. That's the thing that jumps off the page for me that week. Week 12. Week 12 is huge, folks. I have the Niners and Green Bay mentioned there as a NFC playoff rematch. But it's the revenge of the Harbaugh Bowl. Yes. The Baltimore Ravens. Once John Harbaugh, coach of the Baltimore Ravens, beat his brother Jim Harbaugh in a Super Bowl against the 49ers, where Jimmy Smith was crawling all over Michael Crabtree in the end zone and there was no call. But now that Jim Harbaugh is back in the NFL, Baltimore travels to Los Angeles to battle the Chargers in the next edition of the Harbaugh Bowl. And listen, while we're talking about the Chargers, what they did with their schedule release, you have to mention them because they're clearly head and shoulders year in and year out. The past 2 years, they did the anime theme, which was boss. They went with The Sims this year. Kind of disappointed. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying there wasn't intelligent Easter eggs in there. The one for the Harbaugh Bowl was clearly the favorite for me. Check it out on their Twitter account if you want to there. But overall, not super impressed. Not as good as the previous year. Not saying it bad, but I'll just weigh that in here while I'm on that topic. Week 13. The Bills do battle with the 49ers. I think that's the best game of the week, but a pretty good Thanksgiving slate that week, right? You have the Bears and the Lions, a good rivalry game on T-Day to start things off. The Giants and the Cowboys. I mean, the Giants will probably be bad, but it's another good rivalry game. A little bit of something. I think they picked the best game to put on during when most people eat dinner, so I think that's a great thing there. And then the Dolphins and the Packers at Lambeau Field. It's an interesting pairing, and I'll put it this way: it'd be the kind of thing to keep you awake if you're suffering from a food coma after your Thanksgiving meal. Week 14, the Cousins Bowl. But even if still Kirk Cousins isn't starting and Michael Penix takes over by then you have a good rookie matchup in that instance, right? Michael Penix could be doing battle against J.J. McCarthy. Either way, you have a storyline here. So I thought that game was worth pointing out for Week 14. Week 15, I have the Pack and the Seahawks. Relatively speaking, another Socktor organization week. Nothing really jumped off at me. Week 16 is what I'm calling the main matchup that week is what I'm calling the Insure Bowl. That's right. The Rams with their quarterback Matthew Stafford head to East Rutherford to battle the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. Old and old. If they're both still healthy by then, I can guarantee you that nursing homes will empty to consume this particular football game. Let's see. Week 17. Santa brings a butt ton in his bag for Christmas Day action. The Chiefs versus the Steelers started off the Ravens and the Texans, and then followed by the NFC Championship rematch, Lions versus Niners. Oh my. And of course, to wrap it up for the week, Week 18 is always typically a strong week because of all the divisional matchups and all the playoff implications. I listed the two games that I predict will have the biggest implication for seeding that week. Both of them in the NFC in the form of the Jags, or excuse me, one for the AFC, one for the NFC. I have the Jags and the Colts. I think that game will be important for AFC South seeding and potential wild card action, as well as the Vikings in the Lions for NFC North and potential wild card action there. So there you go. Everybody trying to tell me I need 2 hours from ESPN. You're about to get 15 minutes here from me and what I think is worth your time for each and every single day, week of the NFL season. For my money, there's a lot of hullabaloo around this and a lot of excitement, and I'm not mad about it. I'm going to be going over the Jaguars schedule in particular with my friend Travis Holmes on the Duval Dive Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, so look out for that. Since I did the NBA show last night with EJ Christian, doing a shorter version here just to come out here and talk about the schedule this week. But Drew Willingham trying to bring some wrestling in here. I mean, I know you just talked to Black Jesus on Monday on the In or Out Sports Debate show, so you're wrestling fresh. But Jags won't make the playoffs because Tony Khan drafts players while wearing a neck brace. Well, I got bad news for you. It's even worse than that. It's Trent Baalke that's drafting players. So in light of that, disaster still strikes. I mean, I make jokes, but you heard on the Duval Dive here, especially if you're listening through Sertopa Media like Drew is. I gave the Jags a B- draft. I make jokes, so I'll go with that too. But with all that, of course, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Just a quick hit tonight. Like I said, we're just going over the schedule release. I'll say this. I'm certainly glad I apologized to Nikola Jokic last night on the Student of the Game because, hey, he came out and did some work in Denver. Damn. That's all I'm saying. So, what can I say? I feel like I've settled the basketball gods. It seems like home teams are winning in that particular series like they were before. And I'll be interested to see the rest of the NBA. Next week, I can tell you, though, I'll be looking for Sports Junkies host Chris Pirtle to jump in, and Megan Hall going to come in, talk about the WNBA debut that took place this week and how exciting it was, how big a deal it was. Was it the spectacle it needed to be? All sorts of stuff that's going to be cool for basketball on next week's edition of the Student of the Game. But in the meantime, I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the Student of the Game. Check out my writings with the Black and Gold Banneret, the Jaguar Report, and the three-point conversion, as well as my work covering the Orlando Magic, well, until their season ended, with A7 being sports. As I mentioned, check out the Duval Dive this Friday. You Jags fans out there, you Duval devout, will see the entire schedule drop with Travis Holmes. The Big Cat Country should be a good time there. And I know, listen, I've heard this noise about Cole calling me out on TFT. I'll be honest. I went through the TFT episode, did not see the smack. I did not see the smack with an S. So if you can't intimidate me on your platform, on your own platform, not where I was the guest of a platform like I was in the In and Out Sports Debate, how scary are you, Cole Johnson? I think you might just need to come out on Monday night and show me what it is you have. It should be easy to find here. This is a relatively short show that I'm talking smack a second time. So how about that? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting on Drew Willingham's case and saying he needs to put out the short for that sooner than later. Maybe that's what I'm doing. I'm negotiating through the press right now. Anyways, listen, had a great time going over the schedule with you. And if you didn't want to sit through 2 hours of silliness, you didn't have to, by way of the Student of the Game podcast. Until next time, everyone, an honor, joy, and privilege. But until next time, everyone, class dismissed.